Sir, may I come in?
Yes, please come, Garima.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Garima.
Good morning, sir.
Please sit down.
Thank you, sir.
So, Garima, we begin with your brief introduction.
Yes, sir, sure. So my name is Garima Mundra and I originally come from Ahmedabad, Gujarat. I did my schooling from Delhi Public School, Gandhinagar, and then went on to do BCom Honours from Shri Ram College of Commerce, New Delhi. And since then, I've been preparing for this exam.
So, Garima, as I see, you are a commerce graduate, right? Commerce
Yes.
and accountancy graduate. Good. So, let's discuss about India's foreign trade policy 23. Some of the salient points that you can remember.
Sir, the recently released foreign trade policy had 4 major subheads. So one of them was moving from an remission-based policy to an incentive-based policy. The second one was focusing on emerging areas that we can export, say things like apparels and technical textiles, those things. I'm forgetting the other two. But they also focused on districts as exports hub. So focusing on one district, one
Any
product.
idea about targets that they have kept for 2030?
Sir, yes. They kept a target of $2 trillion export by 2030.
All right. So tell me, you're from Gujarat.
Yes, sir.
So ease of doing business was one of the trade policy points.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So I come to Gujarat and ask you, why Gujarat is such a good investment destination? Is it because of its geography? Is it because of its investment-friendly governments, which also means ease of doing business? Or is it because of entrepreneurship of Gujarat people?
Sir, in my opinion, the Gujarat model of government has always been famous for being investment-friendly, and a lot of factors contribute to it. But the first thing that strikes me is that they've developed a very good base for making industries have a better ease of doing business. For example, the power supply. They worked on power reforms and the power supply is very regular. Second is water availability. It being a dry and arid region, they worked on a lot of canal projects like the Narmada Canal. So that has ensured water supply. Third is that they have something called an investor facilitation agency. So any grievance redressal for industries is handled very quickly. We saw it when Tata Nano plant shifted from West Bengal to Gujarat and the approvals were given within 15 days.
Okay.
So that shows how investors.
Good, Garima. So, Garima, as a commerce graduate, what is your thinking about e-commerce? How it has contributed to the rapid economic development of India?
So the e-commerce market is definitely a sunrise sector for the industry, for the government as well, because of the factor that it provides flexibility to both large scale and small scale businesses. Now that the government has come out with open network for digital commerce, that has contributed a lot to even smaller sellers being onboarded on platforms. That was one of the deficits of e-commerce that we had. Otherwise, in terms of employment creation and even FDI, e-commerce has been a very strong point of India because of the large market that it has. So the market centricity provides e-commerce a good advantage.
All right. Tell me, Garima, India and Gulf and Middle East.
Yes, sir.
So, why Gulf and Middle East have lately become so important for India? The Prime Minister has been there so many times.
So we have had ancient and medieval trade links with the Gulf, but what was a very transactional partnership now has moved to a very strategic partnership for India. Considering 2-3 very important factors, obviously we are an import-dependent country on energy supplies. So that has contributed to Gulf being a very strong foothold. Second is our diaspora. Almost 25% of our Indian diaspora lives in the Middle East. So obviously, from the POV of diaspora diplomacy, it becomes very important. And thirdly, even the Gulf nations have realized India as a rising power. So they are investing a lot of sovereign funds.
Good. My last question to you is, Garima,
Yes, sir.
India is having a robust economy. China is passing through a bad patch.
Yes.
China, even otherwise, is getting, cold shoulder from many European and other countries. Now, is it the right time where India should try to build its bilateral relations once again? When China is down?
So yes, sir, China has been going through a slowdown in terms of bilateral relation. I agree with the government's viewpoint that once the peace at LAC, the line of actual control is not maintained, we cannot have negotiations.
So let me stick to this point.
Yes, sir.
When do you think, Garima, one can announce that now there is a peace at LOC? At what? Shall we wait endlessly? Is there any future? Is there any benchmark? Any ballpark that now it has improved?
So
How do you judge that,
yes,
as to when you should improve your relation?
So maintaining status quo that was there before 2020.
So that means they are still encroaching on India?
No, sir, because we had a buffer zone between the two armies, even though the LAC was not completely defined. And we don't see...
So is it only an anticipation that they may enter inside again, that we are saying that LOC issues are still there, or do you think that some areas they have occupied and we are trying to push them back?
Yes, sir. We have heard news of China building villages, border villages near our border.
We are also doing vibrant villages.
Vibrant villages, yes, sir. So exactly the factor that before 2020 we had a buffer zone. So I think maintaining that buffer zone.
So you insist on buffer zone. Thank you, Garima.
Thank you, sir.
Garima, what is the function of an FTA?
So, the function of a free trade agreement, in my opinion, is increasing bilateral trade between two nations, or if it's a grouping, then within that grouping.
Increasing the bilateral trade by what means? How it is done?
So, removing or reducing...
we want to do trade with all the countries, import, export. But what is the specific function of FTA?
So, removing and reducing the trade and even non-trade barriers between the two nations.
Removing the barriers.
Yes.
So, what are the key challenges a country faces while negotiating an FTA? I'm sure you are an expert in this field. It takes a very long time to finalize an FTA. Why it takes so much of a time? If it is to promote the interest of both the countries, then why it takes so long a time to finalize it? What are the key challenges we faced in the past?
Yes.
And what are the agreements in pipeline?
So, with respect to India, our free trade agreements usually face challenges in terms of rules of origin. So, in case a country bypasses the FTAs...
What do you mean by rules of origin?
So, for example, if we have an FTA with India and the UK that we are planning to do, there might be possibilities that countries that have an FTA with UK send it to UK and to India.
Re-export.
Yeah. So, a third party entering between
that is our concern.
Yeah, that is our concern.
Vis-a-vis the UK one.
UK.
What is their concern? What are our demands which is not acceptable to them?
So, with respect to UK, they want a free access to their free spirit liquor, whiskey, gins, all of those things, and also they have certain environmental and labor standards.
And what about certain professional services which they want to provide? Accountancy and all.
Sir, I know it from perspective of India that we want free mobility of our service professionals because we are strong on our services and we should definitely factor that in. And they are not ready to liberalize the visa regime for Indians.
Garima, we decriminalize so many acts and many provisions of the Companies Act also from penalty we moved to what you call it, what is that? From fine to penalty. So this movement, the change in mindset, how it has helped the business?
Yes, sir, the government actually tries to put across that point that almost more than 40,000 plus acts and provisions have been...
40,000?
Was it 4,000, sir? I'm not sure. It was either 4,000 or 40,000 that have been unnecessary provisions that have been removed or decriminalized. and obviously that the factor that foreign investors have
So why decriminalization helps? Criminalization is only with respect to serious non-compliance. So how this decriminalization helps? Anyway, there will be some kind of a measure. It will be
but
visited
that
with-
acts, in my opinion, that acts as a deterrence to the foreign investors who look towards India. That even for smaller issues, there might be possibilities that we would have to face law and order charges. So that reflects negatively on a company's brand value. So decriminalizing it also helps companies maintain their image as well.
So you have been also acting as a corporate communication. So what are the key achievements? What are
So in my work as a corporate communications head, our responsibility was actually raising funds for Shri Ram College of Commerce, Business Management and Cultural Fest. So that has been going on since 1976. So it usually has a fund of about 1
So what
crore.
are the key principles of communication? Supposing you have to communicate, there are certain elementary principles of communication you follow.
So the three major principles of communication, I would say, is keeping it crisp and not verbose so that the other person's interest is maintained. Second is usage of both verbal and non-verbal gesture so that it comes out clearly. And third is a feedback mechanism where you know what the listener is hearing or understanding and acting as per that.
Thank you. So Garima, Yin Yoga in this fast time. How much time do you spend there?
So my Yin Yoga practice would be approximately 40 to 50 minutes and 3 or 4 times a week.
3 or 4 times a week.
Yes.
So what do you why did you pick up on Yin Yoga and why not
Yes,
other
sir.
forms of yoga which are faster and
Yes, sir.
results are also quicker?
So sir, I have been introduced to Yin Yoga very recently in 2020, post-COVID. So once I was infected with COVID, one of my friends suggested to me to try to regain my flexibility and that agility back, and she had referred Yin Yoga to me, and since then I've been practicing and I've realized that it works as a great complement to my other forms of practice, and I've been coming back to it for my mental peace as well.
All right. International relations.
Yes, sir.
How do you see India's foreign policy changing during last 1 decade?
So in the last 1 decade, the foreign policy has both been continuous and maintaining a change as well. So in terms of change, I think we are now focusing on a more self-interest based policy. For example, the Russia-Ukraine war, India taking its own stance. So that has something which has been very interesting. Second is a kind of multi-alignment, not just bilaterally, but joining different coalitions and keeping our options open. So the idea of maximum friends, minimum adversaries. So we have SCO, we also have BRICS, we also have Quad. So that kind of a multi-vector policy has been a good change. And the third is that domestically foreign policy has become much more active. Citizens are taking an active part and interest in foreign policy. So that's also positive.
Good. Garima, railways normally resorts to cross subsidization of freight and fare.
Yes, sir.
So do you think it's a good policy on the part of railways? As a commerce student, what would you prefer? A realistic cost realization or a cross subsidy?
Sir, if I have to see it very objectively, then cross subsidy has an effect on railways finances. But as a policy maker, I would still be in support of subsidization because India is a diverse country with not very high per capita income. So railways acts as a very good means of transport for those people. It's quick, it's efficient, and it's also cheap as compared to airways for longer distances. But at the same time, we need to try and ensure that our freight cost in railways is not very high. And the government has been working towards it through the dedicated freight corridors. So such kind of reforms are necessary to ensure that freight also forms a very big part of railways.
One last question I want to ask you is on Gandhiji. Gujarat means
Land of
Gandhi.
Gandhi, yes.
So tell me, some of his philosophies, which according to you are no longer relevant in present day world.
So can I take a moment to think about it? So some of the policies that cannot be, some of the philosophies that cannot be entirely replicated, I would say would be non-violence. For example, even in countries, we've seen that if Pakistan conducts an airstrike, we have to retaliate and show our strength back. So that kind of a non-violence, complete non-violence is not possible anymore. A second thing I would say, a more village-focused and more cottage-based industries model. We need to have them for sure to build our base, but we also need to have bigger industries, Western technologies. We need to embrace the Western ideologies and mix it with our own philosophies. So that kind of isolation from different philosophies, I think, is not the right step at a globalized world like this.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. So, good morning, Garima.
Good morning, sir.
So, first of all, I would like to know the reasons for choosing to apply for civil services examination.
Sir, it was always in the back of my mind because of my father. He was the one who introduced it to me. Coming from a business family, even they don't have much exposure to civil services. But I think that's how I got to know about it. And when I joined college, because SRCC has a very vibrant culture, even for civil services, it kind of motivated me to give it one more try. And through the journey, I've been much more inclined towards foreign services because of India's rising power and the vibrancy that it can offer.
But don't you think there is more diversity in administrative services as compared to foreign services?
Sir, administrative services is great. There's no doubt about that. But just a personal thing where I see that foreign policies and foreign happenings are interacting with India on a daily basis. From, for example, the oil prices to the salt in our food, everything is linked, and the world is very global. So I think we have a good chance to learn from what other countries are doing, what other nations are doing, and implement it.
Okay, so given the present situation of international relations amid the war, so many wars are going on. So, do you think there is need for India to change its no first nuclear use policy?
So the no first use policy of India has been its highlight. And in my opinion, we should not change that because India is a responsible nuclear power, and changing that would lead to a sort of an arms race where everyone is trying to increase their nuclear warheads. But our principle of disarmament and letting go of nuclear weapons, I think it highlights and interacts with the policy better.
Now coming back to India,
Yes,
so we had Planning Commission earlier and now Niti Aayog. So how Niti Aayog is better than Planning Commission?
So Planning Commission was more of a centralized setup. Niti Aayog has a lot of participation from states. So our ideas of cooperative federalism are much more reflected in Niti Aayog, and it is much more participatory and transparent mechanism. So I think that's why it's better.
So in your optional commerce and accountancy, you must have studied about organizational structure, behavior.
Yes, sir. Right.
Okay. So tell me role and importance of trade unions.
So trade unions are a good linking pin between the employees and the employer. So putting across the grievances of employees to the employers and also communicating back. So they act as a good link. It also acts as a collective strength. An employee individually is not as strong as a union. So unions give them that collective strength as well.
So Garima, you are from Gujarat.
Yes.
So Gujarat is a dry state. So tell me merits and demerits of a dry state.
So first, coming to the demerits of a dry state, obviously the state government loses out on a lot of revenue that they can earn from excise and VAT on liquor. Second demerit is that you cannot openly kind of put across the negatives of alcohol because it's not legal. So in terms of information dissemination campaigns, it takes a backend, and it also leads to a lot of illegal hooch liquor and bootlegging that happens behind the screen. So these are the negatives. Positives, first in terms of, with respect to Gujarat, it respects the social sentiments of the people because it is accustomed to their social norms, being the land of Gandhi, as I said, and also a lot of Jain community. Second is the things that are associated with excess liquor use, like domestic violence and such unspurious activities, they are regulated better.
So my last question would be on your hobby of poetry writing.
Yes.
Okay, so if you can recite few lines of any poem you have written.
Sure, sir. Sir, Hindi is fine. I had written a poem based on this past life that we have. I would not be able to recall the exact lines, but I will try. कि मंजिल का तुझे इंतजार है, पर क्यों सफर से प्यार नहीं, एक ही तो जिंदगी है, क्यों इस जिंदगी में वो जान नहीं, आज जो हो रहा है उसका क्यों मजा नहीं, कल पे तू क्यों रो रहा है, और कल क्या होगा उसका क्यों सोच रहा है, आज कुछ देर तो थम जा और उस नजारे का. Sir, I remember.
Okay, fair enough. So good attempt. So thank you, Garima. I pass on to Chairman, sir.
Garima, what is vote on account?
So vote on account is passed by the parliament when the government needs excess funds to function for a few months, just like how the interim budget recently was passed. So it's excess fund deployment for a particular month till the next government comes to power.
So why do you call excess funds?
Sorry, sir, not excess funds, but additional funds for some particular months.
Okay. Uniform Civil Code. By leaving out tribals, is it any longer uniform?
So tribals were left out of the Uniform Civil Code because of the sensitivity of tribals to even the normal rules of the land. We have always made an exception for tribals for a lot of things by having restrictions on moving to forests.
But don't you think that sensitivity may be existing in the personal laws also of some communities?
Yes, sir, definitely it would be existing.
And don't you think that isolating tribals will be against the government's policy of mainstreaming, bringing them into mainstream?
Yes, sir, but in my opinion, it has to be a regulated and progressive effect and not a direct communication. So wholesale removal of their laws and their traditions would be against the spirit that we have for tribal welfare, but a step-by-step inclusion would be the right way.
Okay, good. Garima, we have covered questions from our side. If you think that something from your DAF we have not asked, I can ask you one last question.
Sir, anything you want to ask?
No, we have finished from our side.
Fine, sir.
So thank you, Garima. We are over with the interview. We will proceed to the adjoining room. We'll call you again.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
So Garima, how did you do today?
I think I could have done better on some aspects.
Okay, what are those things where you could have done better? Just to further see how we can discuss improving you further.
Yes, sir. So definitely my own poetry. I should remember. I didn't remember that.
But did you dare to recite the poetry, or it was asked from you? Like you, नहीं आपने तो पूछा था, but क्या है कि did you show a lot of confidence in your poetry reciting and all, and then you could not?
So I was internally underconfident, but I don't know how it came out.
But you did apply a rider that I may not be able to remember.
Yes, sir.
That was good.
Yes.
No, there was nothing wrong. But हाँ, याद हो तो अच्छा ये छोटी बोल दो.
That I'll remember properly.
You should pick up a 4-liner.
Yeah.
Always remember, in case any board asks you to recite a poem, एक 4-liner रखो अपने पास.
Okay.
Beyond 4 line, it becomes a drag.
It becomes monotonous.
And even the member would feel, oh, why did I ask her to decide?
Makes sense.
Secondly, Garima, the kind of smile and the way you are talking now, can it happen a little bit in your main interview?
Yes, sir. For sure.
You looked a little serious.
Okay.
And it is desirable that you should not only be actually comfortable, but you should also look to be comfortable.
Okay.
Just try that. We were discussing this point more about you.
Okay.
Rest, there is nothing to discuss about you. You are so good. And I would like to just point out one more thing about your IAS. Why IAS? Don't bring your parents, father.
Okay.
Avoid that. You have so many other things to tell.
Okay.
Whatever may be the form of question about why civil services, except when they ask who motivated you, what motivated you to come. That is a very straight question where you can say my parents, my father, whatever. But that also should be very, so my parents, my relatives, my friends.
Okay, understood.
And you also mentioned India's rising power about IFS. That, you are gradually running towards the power. You could show your very strong passion for
Understood.
serving, in that space. Call out some 2-3 more reasons.
Okay, sir.
It will be a pride to represent India. It's a good sentence.
Okay.
And project India as a superpower instead of you running towards power.
Okay.
That is number 2. And of course, smaller things, voter account and all. I mean, it's basically, when you mentioned about interim budget, but just read about it since you have done
The more
accountancy.
technical.
एक्सेस तो है ही नहीं, देखो गरिमा,
हाँ.
है ना. दूसरा एडिशनल भी नहीं है. ये तो एक्सपेंडिचर 4 महीने कैसे खर्च, हिंदुस्तान कैसे चलेगा. तो ये वैसे हो गया कि भाई ठीक है भाई, अभी तुम्हें हम रेगुलर पॉकेट मनी तो हम देंगे 2 महीने बाद. अभी तुम ऐसा करो, अपने खर्चों के लिए ये पैसा ले लो गरिमा. Your parents give you.
Understood.
It is like that. So you are taking out expenditure for your own running of the country for 4 months. Because it doesn't mention anything about revenue. It mentions only about expenditure. Alright. So just few corrections. Otherwise, you are very good. Your personality, your knowledge, your depth about all the subjects, very good.
Thank you so much.
So, Garima, you are very good. Very good communicator. And very good understanding and grasp. Yin Yoga, you explained very well, because obviously in this fast moving world, a term which you used later on,
Yes, sir.
there had you mentioned the same thing, I would have asked you on that also.
Yes.
That can you actually spend 40 minutes on Yin Yoga? That is, but your reply was good. Then changes in India's foreign policy, if you listen to EM, he is now more vocal. We are now coming out also.
Yes, sir.
Like yesterday what he said. You heard him?
In the Munich conference?
Yes, in the
Yes,
Munich conference.
Yes, sir, I did.
So he justified India's equation with Russia
Yes, sir.
and told Western countries how they may not be able to understand how our relations with Russia are.
Yeah.
So that is another change. Cross subsidization and railways, you were very good. Cross subsidization, normally subsidy itself is not good. But then if you become a policy maker, then you have to look into, and over a period of time, railways might also, someday may come when, what is that, per capita income goes up, and that is the time when cross subsidy can be removed. Third is Gandhian philosophy, excellent reply. Many people, they just think that there can be no change, but we are changing.
right? So be honest. So I liked your interaction, your replies, and
Thank you.
your content. Excellent. Keep it up.
Thank you.
बहुत बढ़िया, आपने काफी एफटीए के बारे में अच्छा बताया, रूल्स ऑफ ओरिजिन, निटी ग्रिटीज में जब जाते हो ना तब लगता है कि इनको पूरा आता है, नॉट ओनली एट अ cursory level, there is an understanding the key challenges in FTA. You enumerated those challenges not only from this side, from the other side also. Very good performance.
Thank you.
So I have deprived myself of the opportunity to see your response
Enough.
that you gave, but yeah, that does not matter. But whatever we have seen, I have seen 2 of your response. Very good, excellent.
Thank you so much.
So Garima, same opinion from my side. So you were good in all the aspects of communication, personality, content. आपने काफी अच्छा किया है.
Thank you.
गुजरात से बहुत कम कैंडिडेट्स आते हैं, तो गुजरात
Yes,
के ऊपर आपको काफी क्वेश्चंस आ सकते हैं.
Yes.
तो एक बार आप देख लीजिएगा. बट आई एम श्योर आप गुजरात का नाम रोशन करोगे. So wish you all the best.
Thank you so much.
So Garima, you were very balanced also. In fact, I was very happy with your uniform civil code stance.
Thank you.
Very balanced. Otherwise, one chose only a particular line. You thought and spoke about it. So in all, we have already given our this thing. Any questions from your side?
No, sir.
So we have given you 69% today.
Thank you.
190.
So is this your first round in UPSC?
First interview.
First interview,
Yes, sir.
interview round, yes.
Yes.
So you'll do very well then. And if you have done your mains very well,
Hi.
we hope to see your list in the list
Thank you.
quite high. All the best.
All the best.
Thank
All
you
the
so
best.
much.